Blake, do you remember what happened the last time we drove to Chicago?
You mean the time it nearly killed us?
Welcome to the ChurchGear podcast, where we pull the tech director out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
You're here with me, your host, Blake Hodges, the only guy at ChurchGear who can't drive a box truck, and I'm here with my favorite boss of the moment, Toby Walters.
Wait, did you just say of the moment?
Well, this is the moment, right? We live in the moment. There's only the present.
Does that mean you're planning to have another favorite boss at some point?
Or are you
just trying to live in the moment?
You know, all things to all people. I want to live in this moment. I want to have you be my boss. But who knows? Who knows who will come along inside of ChurchGear, who I one day might have to suck up to as well.
Then that just gives me a goal of making sure your future bosses are worse than me. But that's easy.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Then I'll just have to get rid of them and make sure you're the boss still.
All right. Chances of you getting fired are going way up. But let's talk about our trip to Chicago. So was this was about a year ago, maybe a little more? And do you remember what month it was, Blake?
Yes, it was. It was like the first week of March. No. It was January. It was February.
But
you know
good
what?
memory. Good memory, Goldfish. So we went up there to our friend's church, and we won't reveal his name yet because he's a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like his name was in the episode title at all.
No, not at all. So our buddy up there had done an entire system overhaul and said, hey, guys, we desperately need your help. Come up and buy our old system. So we're like, great, let's go. So we went up, and that was a fun day. Their team was amazing, but we'll get to that. So in order to celebrate the excitement of that day, what did we do that night, Blake?
Oh, the three of us were like, we're going to go deep into Chicagoland. We're going to get on the train. I'd never even been on a train, and we're going to go get some real Chicago deep dish pizza.
So by deep into Chicagoland, you mean downtown Chicago?
Well,
into the city.
Country boy goes into city mouse mode. I mean, here we go. Yeah, deep into the city.
Okay, so we didn't want to drive, so we took the train we're in like the western suburbs. We're in St. Charles, so a good 45 minutes to an hour by train. And so we go into downtown and we eat our deep dish. Were you impressed with the deep dish, Blake?
I really liked it. I think deep dish is good. I would put Jet's Pizza, a chain, up against deep dish.
You are 100% fired.
Well, and I'm sure people will come for my head. I'm just saying the margin of difference is not that big.
Oh my gosh. All of our Chicago listeners on this episode, we went to Geno's East, and that might be, I'm a Lou Malnati's guy. And I'm not a Chicagoan. See, I gave it away right there. I don't even know how to say Chicagoan.
Yeah, we're two Tennessee boys. Well, I'm trying to make
a California kid.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So pizza aside, we get back on the train and we head back to St. Charles where our hotel is. And, every stop they announce, next stop is this. And our stop, Blake, was Geneva Station.
Yeah, and I was not accustomed to stops. Like my stop is your Uber has gotten here and jump out, or your parent screams, get the heck out of the car. Like, I'm not used to a train stop.
So we hear the announcement and we get up like, molasses. We're like, okay, let's get off the train. And we get to, what is it? In between cars where the doors are.
The blast doors,
Yeah. And what happens to us, Blake?
Oh, we get swept up in the tyranny of efficiency. It just keeps going. The doors close. We missed our shot, and here we are, continuing on.
The doors close. It's night in Chicago in February, and we're like, uh-oh. So we're still on the train, and we think, okay, well, there will be another stop, obviously. So the next stop, and I looked this up because I want all of our Chicago friends to truly imagine the scenario. The next stop is La Fox. And
it's the middle of the night.
What are we doing for the 8 minutes in between Geneva Station and La Fox while we're still on the train?
Oh, well, I was pooping my pants. I think Brian was looking at Uber, and I think you were going, this will be an adventure.
Scared yet. What were we, like Brian was looking at Uber, and weren't you on Lyft?
Yes.
We're looking for drivers.
I was scared the moment we entered the city because I'm not in my normal city.
Because this is this day and age. We call a car for Lyft or Uber, and they just pick us up.
But we hadn't anticipated that COVID basically wiped out all the Lyft and Uber drivers.
So we get off at La Fox, we hop off the train, we're on the platform, and the train pulls away, And we it's like one of those moments in the movie where you're seeing the train go by and then it leaves and then you see what's behind it. And what was behind it, Blake?
A winter wasteland, snowy covered farmland.
Yes, absolutely nothing. There was nothing around. And so it's night in February in Chicago. We're on a train platform with nothing around. And the interesting negotiation started between the three of us, you, me, and Brian Blake. And it was like, how good of friends are we in this moment? Like, how close are we willing to get in this? I don't want to go too far on a Christian podcast, but
I immediately said, I'm willing for y'all to cut me open with your lightsaber and crawl into me for warmth like Han and Luke had to do. But Brian wasn't interested in that.
It was nearly the planet Hoth. I mean, it was basically looking out there. It looked like the ice planet Hoth. So I think it was a good 20, 30 minutes. We were debating, like, do we call the police? Do we break into the little, like, train station? And then finally...
I mean, because 40 minutes, it was really like 40 minutes. And 40 minutes of watching your lift circle spin and say nothing.
At night in Chicago, outside in February.
Toby's already called, I think, 3 taxi companies. They all either are not open or they're closed because Lyft has killed them, but then COVID killed Lyft. So now the cold's going to kill us.
We even called our hotel and we're like, do you have a shuttle service? And they're like, we don't because of COVID. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I was like, well,
we're going to die out here.
I was like, are they going to then add us to the COVID death total? Because COVID has killed us indirectly. That's not a political statement. It's just, we've ended up in a really weird moment where it's just 3 dudes with their phones and not a hope between them.
Yeah. So finally, Lyft said your driver's on his way. And man, we were saved. It was a sketchy moment. It was one of those moments I thought, Blake, you might have been right all along that we're going to die.
Oh, man.
Because you're always telling us we might die in this situation.
To hear that I was that close to being told I was right just brings me so much happiness.
Yeah. But we made it. We survived. And I'm still trying to figure out if, working with our buddy at that church up there was worth it for that near-death experience. But I think we're going to find out in just a second, Blake.
Oh, it was totally worth it. I mean, loved the pizza. I know I said that Jets was good, but loved the pizza, loved his crew, and I would really like to now bring in our guy who is from this murderously cold wasteland.
Who is responsible for this trip to this murderously cold wasteland.
But I would like to say is not responsible for us nearly dying, as we should have jumped off the train seat quicker.
I'm holding him accountable.
I guess in the court of judges, I'm more forgiving. But he is the tech director for Christ Community Church, an associate of Slingshot and Philo, Caleb Loeppky. Caleb, welcome to the show.
What's up?
Yeah, now that you've sat there for a billion years.
Hey, that's okay. I'm glad to hear that. I don't know if I fully knew the story of what happened in Chicago, so that's kind of it makes it better for me.
I think I texted you like the basics of it, but
yes,
it wasn't quite as colorful as the full version.
Yeah, it's so funny, man.
As the company, ChurchGear, we were trying to serve you, the client. I didn't want you to know how dumb we had all been. I wanted to build some time.
I think the train was dumb. I mean, is it always that cold in Chicago in February?
I would say yeah. It's not always the best place to live in the wintertime. The summertime's amazing, but it's funny, like I have seen people miss their stop on the train before and go 5-6 stops after they're supposed to get off, and they wake up on a late night train and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm going to have to live on this train with the conductor and the ticket person, and I'm screwed.
What is the play there truly? Like how do they get back home?
Honestly, Uber or Lyft. And it's like this far out in the suburbs at night, like you guys experience, it's like, that's hit or miss. So yeah, it's a little sketchy.
Man, that's scary. Speaking of being sketchy, I'm going to ask you to be a little sketchy here and lie to us.
Love it.
We've got our 5 to 7 truths in a lie segment where we want to introduce you. I'm going to read these off, and then me and Toby are going to guess.
Can't wait.
So don't reveal which is your lie until we've codified it.
And Caleb and I are basically best friends, so I'm sure I'll get this.
Oh, totally. I always blame my best friend for nearly dying in Chicago. Okay. Here's Caleb's truths and 1 lie. I originally went to college to be a worship pastor. I played in a hardcore metal bands in college. I have a chest tattoo.
Whoa.
Okay. I didn't.
This is getting saucy.
Yeah, I didn't.
Can you say chest tattoo on a Christian podcast?
I think so.
Okay.
I once saved, always saved. I copy pasted it over, and I tried not to read it ahead of time, so that did take me back. I had the opportunity to mix front of house for 21 Pilots early in their touring career, and I turned it
Oh my gosh.
down.
I hope that's the lie because that would be horrifying. Okay, keep going.
Okay. I prefer to be warm over being cold. His life decisions would not attest to that. My wife stalked me in college.
That sounds familiar to me. But
I started writing a book about people in live church production.
okay. Blake, I have a confession.
Do you know?
No, but my confession is I listened to Caleb on Rezzy's podcast. And so I already know, Caleb, a handful of these things are true.
Okay, I'm gonna let's then work off of me then, because I'm gonna start guessing things.
I mean, I don't know what the lie is, but I know a few of these things are true. So you guess first, and then I'll guess.
Well, I'm gonna cut, like, I know we went to college to be a worship pastor. The hardcore metal bands, I remember that as well. I really don't think this is a guy with a chest tattoo. I think, well, then again, he does have tattoos. Okay. I'm going to say, but it could be small. I'm imagining like some rock tribal tattoo.
Can you just make a decision? I mean,
well, I was trying to
goodness.
I was trying to collaborate with you, but fine, here we go. I'll go all out on my own, and I will say that the lie is that you have the chest tattoo.
Okay, and my guess is that your wife stalked you in college, because I've seen pictures of you and your family on Facebook, and I'm like, no, that can't be true. Like, she's way out of your league, so
Correct.
there's no way. And if you have a chest tattoo, what's the interest on her end?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, seriously. Okay, are you ready for the reveal?
Oh, okay, yes.
Neither of those
What?
are the lie.
Okay, what's the lie?
Chest tattoo.
Oh man, we can't put
we
that
go.
in the show
Okay.
notes, can we?
Yeah, what
Okay, no, yeah.
what would you say that tattoo is of?
What's really funny is actually lyrics of a metal band that I loved when I was 18, and it was my first tattoo. So that's a total, like, awesome, amazing confession.
Was it a
for myself.
Christian metal band?
It actually was. It was,
Okay.
yeah, it actually was, which is hilarious.
I was about to judge you, but that's okay.
No, it actually is. Yeah. So, okay, the lie is, and I made it I thought that I would make it like way too simple for you guys. I prefer to be warm over cold. That's the worst. I would rather be cold all the time.
That's why you
Always.
live in Chicago.
That's why I live in Chicago, basically.
Yeah.
What is the logic there? Like, why you like to shiver?
Nah, I don't like to sweat. I have a problem with sweating. It drives me bonkers. I don't like it. I just makes me uncomfortable and frustrated. And I get, you know how people get hangry, like hungry, angry? I get
You get swangry.
swank. I never heard that. That's a good one. That's exactly
I
right.
just
though.
trademarked it. So
I'm just like, I don't like that. So yeah, that's me. But everything else is
well,
is
I guess
true.
you're in the right place then, because
Yeah.
you keep you keep staying in the north.
Yep. So it's funny. Right before I got on the podcast, I went downstairs and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so hot in the basement right now." So I have a window down here and it's open all the way right now, and it's
Wow,
pretty warm outside. It's 34 degrees. It's fine. So
that's pretty warm.
yeah,
That is horrifying.
yeah.
Man, you're the right guy in the right place. Okay, tell us about the time you had the opportunity to mix for 21 Pilots and turn it down.
Oh man, I'm so sad for
So-
you right now.
It was funny. I was in college. I went home for a summer, and some friends of mine from high school were in a band that was up and coming, and they were starting to do really well. And it was like their first big tour, and they were like, "Hey, we need a front of house guy. We're touring with this random band in like smaller clubs, 500-600 person venues, called 21 Pilots. They're up and coming. They're the headliner." I had never heard of them. I was like, okay. And so they're like, "We need a front of house guy." They don't have a front of house guy at the time. You'd have to do both. We can't pay you anything. We can just give you McDonald's and you can live in the van. And I was like, I don't know.
They didn't sell
Like,
you with McDonald's.
Yeah. And I turned it down because I had a good paying job at the time. And I was like,
What if they had said Portillo's?
maybe I should have said yes. I don't know. So then,
Honestly, Caleb, I want to let you off the hook for this. I think you made the very logical decision.
but I'm telling you what, years ago, I think it was for the Super Bowl. And they were playing the Super Bowl 3 years ago. And I was watching the
Something
halftime
like
show.
that.
And I was just like sitting in the back, like eating my chicken wing. I'm like, look at me now. Look at me, everybody. And I'm telling the story to all the people at my house for the Super Bowl. And I was like,
There's
wow.
just sauce like dripping down your chest, tattoo.
It's just- I was like, oh my gosh,
You can hardly
man,
read those Christian metal lyrics anymore.
Oh Lord. So I don't know. Truth of the story is, if somebody gives you an opportunity, even if it's for no money, just take it, because I think it'd be awesome. But so that's my one like thing that whenever I see them do, I don't know, whatever they do now, I'm like, oh well, it could have been me, but it's not. Oh well.
My related story, I mean, it's not quite that epic, but I was leading worship in San Diego, and my band and I were at this church as like at the college ministry leading worship. And then after 6 months or so, we said, hey, we've got some other opportunities we're going to move on to. Do you have somebody that can fill in? And the church said, well, we got this young guy that he may come in. His name's Phil Wickham. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, good for you. And so I like to say now that I basically made Phil Wickham's career, because I paved the way in that moment for him to move into that college group.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
I know. Now, when he plays the Super Bowl and I eat my chicken wings.
Oh, yeah. He'll definitely play the Super Bowl.
If he plays the Super Bowl, then it's like one of those Simpsons moments where they name something that's going to happen beforehand.
Like everything in the world?
Yes, everything. I mean, when you have, 57,000 episodes, you're bound to get some things right eventually.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. It's statistically impossible, truly. But so, Caleb, let's get back to some other regrets of yours in life. Just kidding. No, let's truly back it up a little bit. So we've worked with you a few times. First time was last year, where that story originated. And we got like just a ton of gear. I mean, this was really one of like this is a real company now moments for us. We were like buying just a ton of gear. We brought that big old box truck. And we were just marveling the whole time that you're not even 30 years old yet. Maybe you've hit 30 since then. But how did you climb the Church Tech World Catwalk so quickly by the age of 30? And tell me it was hard, so I feel less guilty, because I'm going to be 29 in a couple months.
That's a great question. It's funny, like, I remember my wife and I, when we were first married and we were like doing our full-time careers at the time before kids. And I remember early in our careers, we both came home one day and questioned, we were like, when in the world are people going to take us seriously for what we do in our crafts? And I was working full-time in ministry. She was working full-time at a nonprofit, doing like marketing communications. And that always like bothered us. And so it's so interesting that like you say that, because for me, it used to be this weird thing. And now it's like, oh, that's cool. And when we moved up to Chicagoland 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to work with Todd Elliott, who's the founder of Philo Conference. And he had just left staff at Willow Creek as our technical director and was doing some full-time like freelance work. And so I just happened to be coming on staff with a church that had hired him basically as a long-term consultant for us in our production ministry. And so, it's funny, I had come on staff at the chapel wanting to learn from amazing production leaders. And I had the opportunity to work with Todd for my first couple of years there, which really, I felt like he ingrained in me who Philo is and embodies, and just the idea that like church technical people can be more than just button pushers, and they can be pastors and leaders. And I was like, so I honestly, I think that like I got lucky being able to be surrounded with amazing production people. And I remember moving even in Chicagoland, I'm like, dude, like everybody here is amazing. There's huge churches all over. And like, if I can get connected with them and learn from those guys, it's only going to make me better.
So really, it sounds like you kind of got to live the embodiment of the phrase, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like you got lucky really early on to not be the smartest guy in the room. And now, like, because you were in so many of those rooms and had so many good mentors, it just like literally was like a slingshot throwing you farther up
totally
than someone could. Yeah.
I see what you did there, Blake.
I was trying to be stealthy.
Yeah.
That's why you use a slingshot. David wasn't trying to be... He wasn't trying to be out there and about. He was like, boom, done, in and out. Okay, so...
I don't know if it was a slingshot or just a sling back then. It's not like he was pulling back a rubber band. I think he was,
whipping it around,
doing the swirl with his arm and then tossing.
What do you think, Caleb? Do you think it was more of a twirl?
I think it was probably a twirl. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he had rubber at his.
I'm going to cede this point. I'm wrong. There definitely wasn't an actual slingshot, not in a rubber sense.
But maybe you should segue to what you're trying to go for.
I was trying until, like a slingshot, I got hit from your distraction of me. So we've been shocked at how many young tech directors are at giant churches. Like as you're talking about this, and like every time Toby tells me we're getting gear to church, he's like, and the guy was 21. Like,
I don't think I've seen 21, but I've seen 24 but like 24, 27, 29, 25, like there's so many guys in their 20s that are like the lead production director at these massive churches.
so like, tell us about that. Tell us about, I guess really I'm just asking for more detail on that phase of your life where you might not have been getting taken seriously. You're seeing that as a problem. You're learning from good mentors. Now you're placing people in those positions. So like, what advice are you telling them when it's like, I know we just put you as the head, tech director at a church that's huge and you're 24?
It's funny, with all of the people that kind of work with me and report to me at Christ Community and years ago at the chapel, I used to tell all my guys in one-on-ones, like, I want you to make it to 30 in ministry, which was funny because I wasn't even 30 in ministry, and I hit 30 in like less than a month, which is kind of funny. And
Are you going to make it?
I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it.
Caleb, we want you to make it to 30.
Thank you.
Don't quit yet.
April 5th. I'll just go ahead and quit just one day after. Anyways.
You heard it here first, folks. He's announcing his retirement early.
Gosh, I wish.
Don't tell his pastor.
And I think that there's something... Okay, I think there's a bunch of different factors to the reasons why the age gap is so much younger. I think younger TDs now have not yet been burned by the church, in a sense. They haven't been like totally washed up and exhausted. Now, COVID has, like, I would say, shortened the amount of years that people are staying in full-time either ministry or the church staff that they're currently on staff at. Like, I transitioned last year from the chapel to Christ Community for a multitude of reasons, but I think that younger people have this these layers of, I don't know, shielding or whatever you want to call it. It's just like they feel like they can take a little bit more, from ministry and production people. And what's amazing that in the last 7 years, there is more resources for production people in churches than there ever has been before. So you think of like when I first started in ministry, my first job, I think I was 21 when I first started as a technical director at a church full time. And there was no resources. There was no Philo. There was no MXU. There was no podcasts about church production. There was an OG church tech leaders network that was started by Bill Swearingen at the Crossing and Todd Elliott. Andrew Stone was a part of that. Like all these like OG church production people at large churches that shaped and I think paved the way for us as the new generation of technical leaders to be able to open up more and share more ideas, and be able to have conversations like we're doing now about how difficult ministry can be and how challenging a role as a tech director can be, whether it's about gear or people problems or politics. The people before us have paved the way for the younger generation to do better in what they do for their role. So I think I have never been more thankful for the resources that I have today for my team. I'm wearing a Philo sweatshirt. I'm wearing an MXU hat today. It's just those for me are wow, those are resources that help shape me. The people that are involved in those conferences and shows and tours and whatever, help me to do what I do today. And so if I can pass that on to other church TDs, to keep them in ministry maybe a little bit longer than what they think that they can do, it's huge. I'll just give this brief analogy of people when they think whether they're running a marathon or doing 1 billion push-ups or whatever that is, and they do as many as they can. And then if I were to stop and say,
what if that's 4? Because you said 1 billion push-ups and like
It could be 4.
I mean, I think Blake could get to 3. I think I can get to 4. So
but it's just
If I had
be
a
a
chest,
little more realistic.
if I had a chest tattoo, I could
know.
probably get to 7 at least.
dude, it gives you all the strength to get down faster. So
It's like Samson's hair. Your chest tattoo gets you to 1 billion push-ups. Okay,
right.
sorry.
No, and it's just like this idea of like, hey, do as many pushes as you can. Could be 4, could be 15, could be 20, could be 30, and then you stop, and then you're like, I will give you $50 if you do 30 more. And then all of a sudden, we see people like do that, right? Like there was this illustration at my church a couple months ago on stage from one of our teaching pastors, and they did that with some people that came up, and I was like, it's that for church tech people, and like, hey, can you do this a little bit more, and can we empower you and call you higher than what you are living in your season to like try to power through a crappy season, a busy season, a frustrating season for your family or whatever. And so that's what got me into Slingshot and doing what I do now, because
And you're placing tech directors all over with Slingshot now. And are you doing
Correct,
a lot of this? Like, how much do you get to do with like mentoring and training after you place them?
So there's a couple different things. I would say the majority of my phone calls with candidates and people looking for a job are counseling sessions. So if you want a free counseling session, give me a call.
I thought this was one of those moments.
This is it. This is a counseling session. And
This is the chance for the counselor to be counseled.
Yeah,
That's
my
right.
wife expects me to be fixed after this podcast episode.
Okay,
so
well,
great.
Oh boy,
Go.
there's a lot of stress.
There's
for me
no
now.
fixing Blake.
Oh.
They say you can't fix stupid, and you can't fix Blake.
I
either.
was trying to say it was going to be Caleb's counseling session. Like we can let him air his grievances because he's probably
that's true.
carrying.
Yeah.
He's probably carrying.
I mean, he's only got a month left in ministry.
ministry.
Oh, that's terrible. I hope my boss is listening to this. So anyways, I think a lot of them are counseling sessions, honestly. Like I talk to people and I just hear them. I listen to them about the things that they're struggling with in ministry. I encourage them and call them higher. Sometimes that's like, hey man, I think you're reading these things the wrong way, or hey, I hear how that situation frustrated you and now you want to look at other options to feel like you have something else to do after this. However, what would it look like for you to power through that situation? And sometimes it's not, and we take those people and place them, and it's amazing. Other times it's a long period of time before we do that. I could have an initial conversation with somebody, and then I have these things, and then 18 months later we have the conversation of like, okay, let's do this. It's time for me to go now.
That's great. I love that, like you're saying, when you started 8-9 years ago, there weren't the resources that there are today. So it's so fun to hear that you're doing that with Slingshot and Philo and even just, your team at your church.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are ChurchGear. So we like to talk about gear. So just to, go back to the beginning of the story, we almost died because you asked us to come up and buy all your old gear, which a large percentage of was a giant mire array that you guys had taken out.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, most people would kill to have a mire array hanging in their worship centers. So, I mean, what in the world did you replace this thing with?
So Amplio Systems out of Chicagoland here did a full PA upgrade for us. This is actually right. They did it like the week that everything shut down of COVID. So it was actually kind of perfect timing to do a PA swap.
Thanks, COVID.
Yes. And literally nobody had heard the PA from the congregation until we opened back up in September. Like nobody had ever heard it.
Wow.
And
What
so
a mountain of anticipation.
Seriously. And they're like, it's funny when you replace a PA, you're like, you go from one thing and you know what that sounds like. And then you're supposed to be blown away by this next thing. And what we had was you had 1 week of this, the world shuts down, 6 months go by, and then we open back up and everybody's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like there was no awesome, amazing anything. Cause it's like, oh yeah, it's PA.
Yeah, there was
Sounds
no
fine.
like that moment of like, tech, yeah.
Totally. Tech, yeah. Tech, yeah.
Yeah, tech, yeah.
Tech, yeah.
Tech, yeah. I like that. And I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
Well,
You can use it.
That's what your team screams whenever everything goes right. You've got all the speakers installed, the PA's going, the angels are about to sing, and as they're singing a chorus, you hear them singing, tech, yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's like how Christians, take the thing we can't say on a Christian podcast. They say heck yeah, but Christian tech folks say tech yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So then you didn't get to have the angels sing moment, but like it sounds like you've had like you're glad you shifted over. I mean, how's it been?
And give us some specs on this system.
So we have 8 L-acoustics Cara boxes on each side. We flew some SB18s as like middle subfills basically, and then we have, I think they're SB28s on the ground. I think that's what they are. All the actual nerd gear people listening to this podcast are gonna be like, seriously, like this guy doesn't know.
They're horrified right now.
Well, that's okay. I'm not
guy's
really
amateur hour.
really a gearhead. I'm more
Just
of a,
remember, you have a chest tattoo.
I do.
Well, and you're not 30 yet. You're only supposed to, that's the age of
right.
accountability on knowing the speaker numbers. That's why I'm still not worried about it as well.
Okay.
I gotcha.
So next year when we do this podcast again, I better know my specs,
Totally.
serial numbers,
That's right.
where they came, what batch they were from, all of that, all of those things.
Totally. Hey, so another thing we like to ask people about is, your oh crap moment. I haven't come up with a fun euphemism for this one yet, but
I think
listen,
crap is good.
sure. I guess I just want to have something more funny than crap. But anyways, tell us about like a time. Actually, we already know kind of one of yours about the time that the snow was kind of leaking from the.
Yeah. Well, don't.
Well,
There was an oh crap moment with a certain monitor mixer.
There
how much can I tee
There
Caleb
was.
up?
No, I
without,
know. I know
doing
what
a
you're talking
spoiler?
about. Yeah. So we have at Christ Community, like it's basically our roof is a flat roof, and it's probably a very poor design when you get lots of snow throughout the season, and then you get some weird warm days in a January or a February. Tons of it melts, and it's got to go somewhere. So if it doesn't make it to the gutters, we got problems. So at Christ Community, we have a known leak spot directly over Monitor World. And they had, quote unquote, fixed it. I'm not going to say they, because I don't know who it is, to be honest. But somebody said that it was fixed. And I got a call from my audio guy. This was a couple months after I started on staff. And he's like, hey, we got a problem.
And was he 30 yet?
I think he was 30, yes. Yes,
Yep.
he was 30.
Is he still there?
He is not.
Oh,
I was going to ask if the guy who said the leak was fixed, was he 30 or not? Because
no, I'm his audio guy. So your audio guy was 30, but he's not there anymore. So you're proving the rule.
Correct.
perfect.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Continue.
And he's like, hey, we got a problem. The ceiling has been leaking all night directly on our SSL 550s at Monitor World. And I'm like,
So it's not leaking on a Mackie 32x8.
correct. It is
Yeah,
directly
an SSL.
It's directly on
that's
the
painful.
giant screen and the first fader bank directly underneath the screen. And we're like, oh my gosh. Now, over the years, we had acquired parts and leftover things just from SSL, just in case something were to die. They're super modular consoles. And so like, hey, this fader bank fits in all 3 of our 2 desks. And so we luckily were able to take them out. I remember like they picked it up and flipped it, vertical, and it was just like water pouring out of the faders, which is crazy.
Would this be called waterboarding?
Waterboarding.
Oh my gosh. This would
You're
be called
welcome.
techno.
That is dad humor right there at its highest peak.
Yes.
Okay, so water just pouring out of the fader bank.
Yep. So we had spare parts, and then we also had we had to order some more, which was unbelievably expensive and took 7 months to get here.
Oh, wow.
So we ordered it was 8 months. We ordered in January. They showed up in August. So
Did you guys survive
Crazy.
with the board in the meantime, or did you just have to put something else in
yeah,
its
what was
place?
the duct tape solution there?
Well, honestly, because we had some spare parts left over, we were able to swap it out that day, and we used it the next week. It was totally fine.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, hang on a second. Question.
Totally crazy.
Was the board on whenever water was getting on it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And that's
'cause-
bad.
Yeah, because I've been told you can put water can get on a board that's not being used, and it's less of a big deal. Didn't we talk about that on a pod
Yes.
before?
Yeah.
Okay, man. That's intense.
I don't know how it didn't. I mean, we replaced a bunch of parts. Like we basically had enough parts at the time to swap out, I think, the main fader tile, the screen, the fader tile directly next to like the main 10 channels, and then we swapped a power supply.
So essentially, your mixing board was the ship of Theseus. Theseus.
Yes.
You'd replaced all the parts. It was a whole different contraption at this point.
Correct. So, yeah, it's crazy. So I cannot believe that it still worked. So that's a good oh crap moment. I have another. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead. I was just going to joke that like when we got there was now a tent over the monitor lane.
Yes. So if anybody listening to this comes and visits and I give you a tour, you will see this amazing roof. We call it the roof over Monitor World. And we took 2 like 10-foot sticks of Unistrut and built a coroplast roof that pitches to the back of Monitor World. So it looks really, really weird. It's just bizarre. Like when you walk in there, like, why is there a roof over Monitor World? It's like a festival style thing, and
that's so that the presence of God will dwell under that tent. It's the tent of meeting right there.
That's right.
That's good.
That's right.
Okay, you had one other oh crap moment?
Yeah, so when you guys sent me this outline for today, I was like, oh man, what's my oh crap moment? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's probably ever happened to me in the history of my career ever. Okay.
And we're going to find out if this is like the worst thing that's ever happened to any tech on our show ever. So
I mean, it could be.
You're going to be on the leaderboard.
It could be. I don't know. It was bad for me. So I have this rule in church tech, and I have this rule for my teams, and the rule is don't ever run. Never run. Never run in front of people. Never run
for like embarrassment purposes. Like you're afraid you're going to trip.
No, this is a safety issue.
This is not even a safety
or not
issue.
With scissors. Because you tell kids don't run around the pool, don't run with scissors. What is this?
This is don't run because it makes everybody nervous. Okay, like never run. If you're going to run up the stairs when nobody sees you, and then walk nice and slow and very calm, cool, and collected once you get in there. Because if they see.
It's not like you're working at a nuclear power plant. If you see somebody running at a nuclear power plant, it's like,
exactly.
Yeah, pay attention, run with them. Yeah.
At the time, we were experimenting with getting comms into the band's ears so that I had stage talk. This was early in us kind of doing that. And so we were just figuring it out. We got it all working and was like, oh, this is awesome. We have a stage talk button piped into Monitor World so that I can talk to the band. So we also had the production party line going into the console so that I don't even know why we were doing this. I think maybe for recording comms. I don't know why I did it. I would never do it again because of this. So somebody messed with the matrix that was going to our online bus and piped in the production party line. Okay. So this online bus is going to online and it's going to Resi and to all of our, at the time, 7 campuses across Chicagoland. Okay. So
and all Blake is hearing is party bus right now.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm like, this has great stories on the party bus, but it sounds like what's happening here is a connective issue is making like the information you're disseminating is not going in the right places, I'm guessing.
I don't even know what you just said.
There we go. Now, I felt
basically my
continue.
Production, everybody talking, chatter during the message, people talking to video, people saying, hey, I need to go get some coffee. I need to go to the bathroom. Doesn't matter. All of that is being sent to every regional campus while they're watching the message.
Oh, no.
Oh, my.
Oh,
so
no.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I thought that the party line was just turned up at front of house and we were talking live. And what I realized, because Resi is a minute delayed, whatever it was for us at the time, that we were recording all of this stuff. It was going up into the cloud and then coming back down. So I remember at one point on comms going, everybody stop talking. We're going to every campus right now. And I basically like pulled the plug on comms so that nobody could talk for the rest of the service and then everybody stopped talking on comms, but you could still hear us talking because it was delayed. And so it was quite
This is amazing.
possibly the worst thing that has ever happened.
And what's the worst
like-
thing that somebody said? Do you remember?
Oh, yes.
Was there something bad?
Nobody luckily said anything bad
No one
other
had to
than
take a
probably
dump.
me yelling, "Just everybody stop talking. We're on."
And-
it's going to the PA right now.
And you said it without a curse word,
without a curse word.
even with a
there
chest
was-
tattoo.
Oh, there
But he
could have been
did say
so
it with his chest.
I did. There could have been so many awful things that happened or that could have been said. And luckily it didn't. But honestly, that's a day that like I thought, well, I guess that's my last Sunday. Forever,
no.
Well, because
do you-
it was bad.
Do you remember, one, how old you were at that time? And two, how did you actually, did you ever fix it? Like, what was the thing that had caused all that to happen?
Yeah, somebody had turned that channel up that was hitting the console into the matrix that was going to Resi and Online. And so we fixed it really quickly, but it sucked. It seriously sucked. So I don't remember how old it was.
Was there a
but-
conversation with, your pastor or anybody above you after that?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes, there was.
Is that
Yeah.
an uncomfortable couple days?
No, I
or-
mean it was fine. It was like, in those scenarios, like I just have to own it, and just be like, dude, that was me. I screwed it up. We had massive issues and I take full responsibility for it. And that's all you can do, And whatever happens after that is like totally off your plate. And so for me, I was like, well, I guess this is what I got to do. So that was that. And that was the thing that I wake up in sweats thinking about sometimes. I'm just like,
Oh, and you're swangry. You do not like to sweat.
correct.
That's right. Yeah, so that conversation couldn't have been fun. And it sounds like, you kept alluding to this really at the beginning on you want people to make it to 30. And so I'm assuming if you have a couple of those moments, suddenly that's how people don't make it to 30 anymore because they're just like they get burnt out. That's those moments are gasoline on the burnout fuel.
Yep.
So like, why do you think it is that people burn out so fast? What advice do you give the techs to keep them from burning out? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it is mindset, but I mean, burnout is super real. If there's anything we've learned in the past couple of years, burnout, like in tech world and in the culture at large, it's burnout.
I think burnout is even more present because of COVID and what production people have had to do in the last 2 years. I think it's 2 years. I don't know what the day is, but it's got to be within a couple of days now of COVID, of the world shutting down. And
Yes.
I remember feeling the weight of like, holy crap, we have to make this crappin' every week now online and somehow figure it out and wear masks and socially distance ourselves from the band and
What did you just say? We have to make this
crappin'.
Oh
yeah.
dude, we're just
I've said-
dropping euphemisms all over the place.
Is
Like,
that-
introducing to the world? What do we got so far? Like swangry, crappin'.
Tech, yeah. So
Tech, yeah.
is crapping whenever like you got to do a task that sucks, but you got to do it regardless?
That's exactly right. And so we used to say it all the time with my guys at chapel. We'd be like, all right, let's make it crappin'. And, it's just like, what are you going to do? Like, you can't, like, it is what it is. Like, we
Oh
just
my
got to
gosh.
do it. We got to figure it out. There's nothing else that we can do but just figure it out. And so that's why people get burned out all the time. People get burned out because of ministry politics and the challenge of like doing all the things that are not necessarily what I want to do. You find yourself in meetings all day long that you're like, I really have nothing to do with this meeting, nor do I want to be in this meeting ever again or ever show my face on this Zoom call. And it's like, you just have to do it. And then you have to figure out when you're going to do the rest of the stuff, that you have to do throughout your day. And so,
Well, hang on. Let's dig deeper there. Like, whenever you're saying like, let's make it crappin', and you're on this meeting you want to jump off of, like there was one CEO that told people, if you're on a meeting that you think you shouldn't be on, just leave. It was a couple years ago, actually.
Elon Musk.
There we go. So like, do you say like, just make it crappin', like play the church politic game and play nice and then figure it out later? Is it like, you know what, have some of those hard conversations with the people above you, whatever, and say like, I don't have time for XYZ, I got to do ABC? Or do you like encourage those conversations? Or you're like, Yeah, you probably can't.
I definitely encourage conversations. I think that's the only way that I've survived as long as that I have, or as long as I have, is because I've had to learn to live in the hard conversations and just like, yeah, tell people like it is. And if we as a church body say that we actually care about the people that are on our church staff, church tech people have this tendency to not ever want to speak up for themselves, or when they do speak up for themselves, it's in a super like terrible way, and it's rude, and it doesn't come off well, and it doesn't come off well to anybody. And so there's a time and a place for everything, and so you have to step into those conversations in a way that like makes sense for your organization. And not every organization has the ability for somebody to like walk up to senior pastor and be like, this sucks, I don't want to do this anymore. And so how do you do that in an environment if you feel like you're not safe to have those conversations? And it's not always super easy. And so I'm not going to say that it's like this one recipe process for everybody, but yeah, you got to have the hard conversations to be like, hey, these things frustrate me. You know, I think the thing that I have found that works the best is just going back to like your skill set and what you're passionate about, and what are my sweet spots in production? Where do I thrive in what I do? And we talk a lot about in Slingshot, and when I do coaching with people, and we talk about these 4 buckets of the areas of ministry that you're really good at, the things that you love to do, that excites you and energizes you. What are the areas of your ministry that excites you, but you don't have a lot of skill set in, that you need to learn more about? The third one is what are you really good at but drains you? And then what are you really bad at and that drains your energy? And that's the one that you're like, this is the area of my ministry, my day-to-day that sucks. I'm terrible at it. I don't like it. It doesn't energize me. Who can I delegate that to? Whether it's a volunteer, another staff member, having a conversation with your boss. And so just like trying to put people in their sweet spots, because like I say all the time, at Slingshot is like and even when I hire at Christ Community, it's like we hire people, not the position. Like, yeah, we need an audio director, but I'm not just hiring like a rock star audio guy. Like I'm hiring a person, and I'm hiring them for their skill set and what they bring to the table, not just, here's a job description and I want you to execute to a T. Cause I think that's BS. I think that I don't like job descriptions at all.
And they have to be under 30 so that then you can coach them to get them to 30.
I mean, here's the reality of a guy under 30. I would say under 25 and under, is they are Play-Doh, and we can mold them into what we want. And that sounds really like wrong.
No, that's not weird at all. That shows great intentions that you're willing to mentor them.
Like scientifically is proven that the male brain is fully developed at age 25.
There you go.
Yeah, I think for women it's like 12, but for men it takes us till we're 25.
That just means we've got more chances for people to speak into us. Hopefully, so they get lucky and they hit someone like Caleb.
Yeah, and so it's funny, and it's one of those things that how can we pour into our leaders below us to be encouraged, and like you're going to keep people longer in your church if you put them in their sweet spot. If they're doing things that they like, why would they quit?
Totally.
Why would they quit? If they're doing things that they like and they're getting paid decently, like that's a whole other conversation. But it's that's how you keep people. And so how do you do that and give them the opportunities to scratch the itch of what they like to do? Like I was in your neck of the woods yesterday, and sorry we didn't get to hang out.
What?
And
yeah, when I saw that you were in the B&A carpet, I was like, and he didn't say hi, Toby's going to be devastated.
Yeah, you were still dead to me, by the way.
Correct. Well, and then what's funny is I got done with meetings early, and I was like, I'm going to go to ChurchGear right now. I'm driving. And then I'm like, what's your address? And I was like, oh, crap, I'm an hour away from there right now. So
you should have made that crappin'.
So I'm like, yeah, I think I'm just going to go to the airport and just work. And so that's what I did. But anyways, I was having this conversation with this organization yesterday, and we're talking about this church that is a well-known church that I won't say their name of, and they don't allow any of their production staff to contract. And for whatever reason, they have lots of their own reasons, but whether it's for financial gains for somebody to contract on the side and do extra side work, or to just scratch an itch and like, hey, I get to do a fun like touring show, or I get to do whatever. Like it doesn't
Like
really
21
matter.
pilots.
21 pilots. It scratches that itch for people. And so like I encourage all of my guys to go contract, to go do things, to take
Scratch your
couple
itches.
days to scratch your itches, man. They itch them. And
That kind of leads us almost to the tech takeaway. Like, I think you're in a tough spot here because you've already given 2 gold ones on scratch your itch and have the hard conversation. But essentially, we like to ask every TD to give us a piece of advice that for making your Sunday service better. Like, what's a thing that only you feel like you do? Now, we already know you're the only one who has the tent over his mixing boards, so we can't use that. But like, what's a tip that you're like, this is something I would tell everybody to do? And it can be philosophical even. You've had a lot of great one of those.
yeah, I have very little amazing like actual tech takeaways because I'm not really a gearhead. But
And it doesn't have to be that.
no,
I mean,
no.
there's
Yeah.
you know better than anyone the amount of roles and people it takes to pull off Sunday service. So
Totally.
anything really surrounding that.
I think say yes to opportunities that come your way. 21 pilots. I should have said yes. And I think, like, honestly, I think it goes back to like scratch your itch, right? Like, so I talk about, and if anybody's ever read this book, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Love Does by Bob Goff is one of my favorite books of all time. It changed my world, my career, how I view my life, how I look at my career, and what I do and what I do matters, and finding things that you love to do. And Bob Goff talks about in his book that he is a lawyer by trade to pay for the things that he loves to do. And so it's a little backwards because lawyers get paid more than technical directors in churches. However, it's this idea of I'm doing what I love in ministry. And if I do a couple of things on the side to make ends meet, or to be able to scratch my itch, or to be able to do things that I enjoy without having to go on tour for 200 days a year, that's an amazing opportunity to be able to pour into the kingdom and still do the things that you love. And so it's, over the years, I have questioned leaving ministry many times, and I've always gone back to like, where is the freedom that I have here? And I am very lucky because I know that that's not the case for everybody that might listen to this and say like, well, my church doesn't let me do those things, and that sucks. And I hope that changes for you. But for me, it's like, if I'm pouring into the things that I love and I feel like God put on my heart down the road, it's only going to impact the kingdom greater outside of my local church, inside my local church, with the people that I serve with, my volunteers, my staff members, all of those things. And so it's like, man, like, do those things because I think it's going to make you better. It's going to make you a better dad, a better wife, a better husband, a better spouse. It doesn't matter. It's like, oh my gosh,
Totally.
like, do the things you care about and run to the things that you feel like you're excited about. Because I used to pray thinking that God would reveal this amazing direction and roadmap for my life. And I'm like, I don't know if he actually works like that. I think what he does is provide things that you enjoy and you find joy in. And if you run in that direction of finding joy in tech, or one of my really good friends at a church here, Harvest Bible Chapel in Chicago, he was one of the production managers there, just stopped doing production to be full-time young adults pastor because he cares about young adults so much. And he's like, this is amazing. And I've had more joy in my young adults job than I ever did in production. And it's like, wow, like, it's amazing.
And what I'm like hearing from you there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost sounds like, the tech takeaway there is enjoy what you're doing in tech, continue, as you talked about those buckets, like to try to get yourself into the right bucket, and ultimately don't find 100% of your professional or hobby satisfaction here. Like, enjoy as much as you can, but then like scratch those itches other places, because then it'll take less pressure off of needing that tech director job to give you everything you were hoping for it to give you. And honestly, I think that applied to anybody's job.
Totally. My dad has always told me there are stupid people everywhere that you go. And whether that's in ministry or it is 100% true.
That's
the grass
100%
is
true.
never greener on the other side. And there's going to be stupid people there, just like there's stupid people in your own environment. And so I don't have enough room for more stupid people in my life. But if I can be like, hey, it is what it is, and I'm not going to run from my problems when things pop up, I think I'm gonna be better because of it. So.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, and we see that a lot in techs, like the tech tenacity to just figure out a problem rather than run from it seems to be a natural trait of you guys.
Is it tech tenacity? I mean, we're creating new euphemisms today, so let's put it together.
Before I started this episode, I just got a dictionary out and I started writing in words everywhere.
So technacity.
So, okay. Well, Caleb, man, I really appreciate you coming on. You're just a fountain of wisdom, and I promise that only one of the two of us holds you responsible for nearly killing us. I won't say who that is.
It's me, and I also am still deeply wounded that he came to Nashville yesterday and didn't come see us. So
just know that all of that hurt you hear in his voice is really just love on the other end. Man, is there anything you want to plug?
I'd love to plug what we do at Slingshot. We help churches find full-time production staff, and we help church production staff find ministry opportunities that make sense for them and their families and what their skill sets are and the things that God put on their heart. And so, if you're interested in talking or checking that out, reach out to me.
How do they find you?
I'm trying to think of the best way that they could find me. They could email me, I guess. Email would be probably the best way. My email is cloeppky, Loeppky @slingshotgroup.org. And just reach out. I'd love to connect. And even if it goes nowhere with you staying or going, it doesn't matter. I'd love to connect, man.
Okay. Well, Caleb, again, man, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring you back to life. You're no longer dead to me. So congratulations.
Okay, good. Because I was like, this is actually like a great relationship to have. I don't want Caleb to feel like we don't love him, because we do.
Thanks for listening. And hey, congratulations on surviving Sunday. If you happen to make it through next Sunday as well, join us again for your weekly Tech Breather.
Blake, what would you rate this episode? And I mean, really, Caleb personally.
Oh, I'd give him a 10 out of 10. I'd give the episode a 10 out of 10. I'm running out of 10s to give. And the ratings that I would give the podcast would be a 10 out of 10, but you can't, because there's only 5 stars in Apple.
That seems unfair.
I know. Tim Cook, get on this. Cook us up some more star space. I want to have 10 stars, not 5. But to get some of those, I think we need some help, Toby.
Yes, please. And as my kids always say at the end of every YouTube video, like and subscribe.
Oh, smash that subscribe button. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't want to sound like that, but I will say, if you could give us a review, it would be great.